In 2003, a young woman of just 19 years old claimed she had found the key to revolutionizing medicine. It wasn't a new drug. It wasn't an innovative surgery. It was something that sounded even more powerful. A single drop of blood taken from the tip of your finger, and within a few hours, a complete diagnosis of your health. No needles, no pain, faster, cheaper. The idea was to transform reactive medicine, the kind that treats illness only after it appears, into preventive medicine, where monthly tests could identify problems before they became fatal. It was an almost perfect promise. The young woman's name was Elizabeth Holmes, and her company was called Theranos, a blend of therapy and diagnosis. For a few years, the world believed, but there was one fundamental detail hidden behind the grand narrative. The technology simply didn't work. What began as a revolutionary promise ended as one of the biggest corporate scandals of the 21st century. The question is inevitable. How did billionaire investors, influential politicians, and Silicon Valley leaders believe in something that had no concrete proof? How did a startup without independent scientific validation reach a valuation of billions? And how did such a fragile story manage to sustain such a massive empire? This is the story of the illusion that deceived Silicon Valley. Elizabeth Holmes was born in 1984 in Washington, D.C., into a family with a history of prestige. From a very young age, she spoke about success with striking confidence. While other children said they wanted to be doctors or astronauts, Elizabeth said something different. She wanted to be a billionaire. Stanford University, one of the most prestigious universities in the world, seemed like the right place to begin. It was there that some of the biggest names in technology had emerged. Within her first months on campus, Elizabeth began talking about her idea, a technology capable of performing hundreds of tests using just a single drop of blood. Some professors reacted with immediate skepticism. Biology is complex. Blood tests require volume, precision, chemical control, and carefully calibrated equipment. But Elizabeth wasn't interested in hearing, "This is difficult." She went looking for support, and she found someone willing to believe in her. A respected professor began championing the young woman as someone brilliant, and that single word changed everything. Because when someone with authority validates you, the world starts listening differently. Elizabeth dropped out of college at 19. Inspired by stories of legendary founders who left university and built empires, she decided to do the same. Now, she needed capital, and she got it. Investors began betting on the narrative, not on scientific proof, but on the vision. Elizabeth had something rare, an extraordinary ability to persuade. She wasn't just selling a product, she was selling a better future. And investors don't just buy technology, they buy stories that promise to change the world. Elizabeth wasn't just a CEO, she was a brand. Minimalist black clothing, firm posture, carefully controlled speech. Comparisons to Steve Jobs emerged, and she made no effort to avoid them. She projected absolute confidence. She spoke about saving lives. She used emotional stories to reinforce the company's purpose. The media loved it. Magazine covers, most influential lists, invitations to events alongside world leaders. She became a symbol of innovation. But there was something curious. Theranos was famous for its promise, not for its proof. Instead of prioritizing independent scientific validation, Elizabeth assembled a board of directors filled with powerful names, former secretaries of state, former senators, generals. None of them were direct experts in the technology being sold, but their names carried weight, and that created a psychological shortcut. If these people are involved, it must be legitimate. Investors followed the momentum. Billions began to pour in. The company reached massive valuations. Elizabeth officially became a billionaire on paper. But inside Theranos, the heart of the company was failing. The machine was not delivering what it had promised. In Silicon Valley, there is a dangerous philosophy. Fake it till you make it. Pretend until you succeed. In software, that might mean launching unfinished versions. But in medicine, the risks are far greater. Theranos' machine promised to run dozens of tests using a tiny drop of blood, but many tests require larger volumes, and to compensate, the company diluted the samples. Dilution means reducing concentration, Reducing concentration means compromising accuracy. The results began to show serious inconsistencies. Employees noticed major discrepancies, values that made no sense, comparisons that didn't match traditional lab tests. But the company kept moving forward, because Elizabeth needed the world to believe now, not later. In 2013, Theranos partnered with Walgreens, one of the largest pharmacy chains in the United States. The promise was to bring accessible testing to practically every street corner. It looked like the future of healthcare. But where were the robust independent studies? Where were the broad validations? Even so, the expansion began. And then troubling reports started to emerge. Patients received alarming results, and when they repeated the tests at traditional laboratories, they discovered everything was normal. Others may have had conditions that went undetected. When diagnoses fail, the impact isn't financial, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's potentially medical, and that's when the narrative began to crack. Employees began to realize that something was deeply wrong. Erika Chung, a young scientist, joined the company full of hope, but she encountered constant inconsistencies. When she raised concerns, she was silenced. The environment was marked by secrecy and pressure. She left, and when former employees walk away with conviction, stories begin to spread. In 2015, investigative journalist John Carreyrou began looking into the company. The promises seemed too good to be true. The lack of transparency was obvious. He spoke with former employees, doctors, and experts. The pattern kept repeating. The technology did not work as promised. When the report was published in the Wall Street Journal, the impact was devastating. Theranos denied the allegations. Elizabeth maintained a firm posture, but trust began to crumble. Regulatory investigations were opened, partnerships were reconsidered, investors panicked. The castle began to fall. Legal pressure intensified. Lawsuits began to surface. Theranos was ultimately dissolved in 2018. Elizabeth Holmes, once celebrated as a visionary, now faced criminal charges. The trial raised the central question: did she believe her own lie? Or did she know exactly what she was doing? The verdict concluded that there was fraud on several of the charges. The story that began as a revolution ended in a courtroom. The Theranos scandal is not just about one person. It reveals a system that values narrative over verification, an environment where the fear of missing the next big opportunity can outweigh prudence. It also left real consequences. Patients affected, serious research discredited, investors more skeptical. The story of Elizabeth Holmes became a symbol of a warning. A well-told story can be more powerful than reality. For a while, Theranos promised to democratize healthcare. It promised to save lives. It promised a future where no one would have to say goodbye too soon. It was a perfect mission, but it was built on something fragile, not evidence, but persuasion. And the final question remains: who is more at fault? The person who sells the illusion, or the system that chooses to believe without demanding proof? When marketing replaces science, the cost isn't just financial, it's trust, it's credibility, and sometimes it's people's health itself.